meeting of the Ordinance Committee to order, it being almost 6:35. With me, I have our newest member of the council, one Anderson Burgos, and a new member on the committee, Nelson Roman. Excuse the static, it is not under our control, but it's better than the loud buzzing that we had before.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to take up item number 1 and open the public hearing.
I have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we have on our agenda for tonight, item 1, which is a public hearing noticed for Tuesday, January 9th at 6:30 p.m. at City Hall to hear a special permit application for Gary Rome for a non-accessory sign at Parcel A, Whiting Farms Road, map 177, block 00, parcel 013B. So the public hearing is open, and if the applicant would like to come forth and give us an overview, and if you wouldn't mind to be, I know you've given us some visuals that the public can't see, but if you could just try to give us as good a sense of where it would be and how it would look, that would be great.
Good evening. Attorney Thomas Wilson for Gary Rome, and to my right is Gary Rome of Gary Rome Hyundai, 150 Whitings Farm Road. I'm of 98 Lower Westfield Road. This has been a long-standing project in our lives and in our businesses. This is to put up a sign for Gary's Hyundai dealership, not on his property, on property owned by O'Connell Oil. To orient you a little bit and orient the people at home, there's Shell Station on the corner of Whiting Farm and Lower Westfield Road. There's a sliver of it that goes up towards the towards where the Pablo Freire School is, towards towards 91, and that's where it is our wish to put up a sign for Gary's dealership. Basically, it's the westernmost light pole. It is sign is going to. Gary, why don't you tell them what you're going to put on the sign?
Thank you. Gary Rome from Gary Rome Hyundai, 150 Whiting Farms Road. Our intention is to put a directional sign up there, and the sign will also be used excuse me, to promote other activities within Holyoke, celebrate Holyoke, St. Patrick's Day. We can use it for Amber Alerts. We can use it for snow emergencies, things like that. And it is a digital sign. It's not going to flash. It's not going to scroll, nothing like that. But the sign, as you can see here, it's about 24 feet from the top of the berm over there. It may actually end up being a little bit lower because we noticed the berm is up about 3 feet, so we may not use the whole height that was that we discussed last time. And the size of the sign is 8 feet by 4 feet 8 inches.
Right.
And it'll be a display on both sides. So there'll be one sign on either, but they'll be joined together.
And what is it that you intend to have on the sign as the base message?
Base message is a directional message to let folks know that my dealership is just half a mile down the street. Whiting Farms Road.
So you take a left
Left or right, depends where you're coming from.
to get to Gary Rome Hyundai at the 150 Whitings Farm Road.
I would like to note that Councillor David Bartley has joined us, and he is vice chair of this committee. And we also have Councillor McGivern in chambers. Thank you. So are there questions from Councillor Roman?
Yes, thank you, gentlemen, so much for being here. So the signage itself, sorry about all this static. I don't know what's going on tonight. It'll be digital, you said?
Yes.
Yes. So am I correct in that the current language that has it, in order for it to be digital, it has to have weather? Hello? Oh, better.
There we go.
And we have clarity. I lied. Maybe. So you have to have weather signages as part of it, correct? Under the current rules?
Weather?
Right.
Well, I don't know that that's part of
Not
the,
under this.
the requirements, but I plan on having weather on there. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
That's something that Gary wants to do, is sort of give back to the community for the support and everything, is have, for the weather alerts, celebrate Holyoke, the Hispanic Fest, anything that's happening in the city would be, with their permission, if they wanted to, Gary would advertise
Sure,
on that sign.
but in reference to what your request was, the temperature will be displayed and the time will be displayed constantly at the bottom of the sign.
Okay, great, thank you. And then, clearly we have this sign, so that's right when you come off of 391, that whole parcel around the signage, 91, sorry, tired.
Lower Westfield
90
Road.
Road, yeah, Lower Westfield Road, I know it well. So that whole little parcel and area, are you gonna do anything around the signage, or is just the signage going up and that's it?
It's already been landscaped by the current owner, and we've I leased a space
Okay.
there already. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And in the lease and in, I believe, the ordinance, or what, we worked with the planning board and everyone, is that it has to be maintained, it has to be landscaped, it can't be, in
Disrepair.
repair. It's got to be kept in repair.
Council Bartley?
Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon. How are you, Gary, Toby?
To me, we have to get the special permit prior to filing an application to build the sign.
Right.
So
just
he has
hopeful-
not wait. I don't really know what his true position is. I know that he, at one point, wasn't thrilled with the way the ordinance was written, and that was, I don't know if he ever went and talked to the law department or everything, but the
Well,
ordinance is
what
now
is-
passed.
Right.
So,
So all we need, once the special permit is approved, is then we'll apply for a building permit, and he'll give us a building permit, and we'll show him this is where the sign's gonna go. And we've already been in touch with Holyoke Gas and Electric. They're gonna bring the electric meter over. They're gonna take care of all the excavation and everything else to bring the meter over to the signpost.
and I know he's seen at least some of the plans for this, for the sign itself. What you're seeing, I believe he's already seen as well. He's seen as well.
Yeah. So, Madam Chair, I'm pretty proud of the work we did for writing the ordinance, but I'm not sure if, I'm getting a little tired of this back and forth between our body and the city departments. We get this from planning regularly. Well, you guys pass a special permit first for a drive-through, and then we review it. Okay, yeah, that's real helpful. Now, you guys pass the special permit for the sign, the off-site sign, and then we'll review it. I don't know if we're not writing these ordinances clear enough, but it's really, we should be given feedback prior to us making decisions. And I'll just end this way, Madam Chair. I know the chair has not opened this up to public comment yet, Councilor and Gary. I know she will. But, I mean, we have a kind of a hard letter here from your abutter. It's kind of a hard letter. It's just from Mr. Patel. I'm going to let the chair kind of run with this, but it's a very hard letter. So I would I'll leave it at that. And here, Toby, you can read it now.
And I will read it into the record. We received this very late in the day today, and members of the committee or myself had not had a chance to read it before tonight.
So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Lacey has joined us. Attorney Barnes, do you have any insight into is there any formal issue that can be made a part of this public hearing that you're aware of, or just questions?
We did, we had kind of an email chain happening regarding the special permit. I know there was some concern with Attorney Wilson reaching out to find out if the building permit would be allowed at some point based on the new ordinance. The building commissioner did respond that he can't issue a permit because of the way the new sign ordinance was written. It basically, from my understanding, it conflicts with our current sign ordinance. So for him to issue a building permit for a sign, he's unaware of which ordinance to follow at this point, basically, because one sign ordinance reads one way, and then we introduce this non-accessory sign ordinance, which kind of conflicts with the current or the prior sign ordinance.
Well, we
So-
can certainly clarify which ordinance we are allowing a special permit under, if that will be helpful.
Well, I know that's the confusion there. Unfortunately, we have definitions in both parts that conflict with each other. So I think there may need to be a redraft there, because in the future, I think this is going to come into play again.
All right. Well, we would be happy to receive any feedback from you in terms of any necessary modifications, if that would, avoid future conflicts. Anybody in the queue that wished? No, you're good?
Yeah.
You're all set? Counselor Leahy's also joined us in chambers.
Thank you.
Welcome. Are there any other questions? I just want to confirm with the applicant that under the new ordinances, what we're looking at here in terms of the documentation and the application, that you are in conformance with the height not exceeding the 30
Correct.
and the minimums, and that in terms of any review from the building inspector, absent a conflict, and I do not know what the conflict is. I don't know if he made it evident to you as the applicant what the conflict
It
might
sounded,
be.
it sort of sounded just what Attorney Barnes said to me, was that he had a conflict with the language, the fact that, I guess that the language in the accessory ordinance didn't correct or remove some of the definitions in the regular sign ordinance. I'm not sure if I got it right. To be honest with you, I was leaving another meeting with him on a totally another issue when we had this brief conversation, so.
Okay.
I think that just to make it a little simpler, I think he wasn't sure how to approve it. So I think that once we get the special permit, he'll figure out how to approve it so we can move forward.
Okay. So, are there members of the public that are here that are interested in speaking either in favor of this application or in opposition of this application for the non-accessory sign?
Lane Florio, 31 Wellesley Road, and I'm also president of Holyoke Taxpayers. And I'm just here to say that Holyoke Taxpayers, is in favor of this going through. I'm saddened to hear tonight that there's the potential for more delays. I know it's not anybody's particular, you can't put a fault line on it, but it seems as though this has been stretched out for a very long time. And I would just hope that we could, as we're starting off the new year, have things put together enough so that this kind of a delay doesn't happen as often as they have.
We are open to that. and have
I
been
know
for
you are. I know you are.
months.
And I just think that that's going to be something important for all of the constituents in Holyoke that are trying to get started with things. So, but thank you for your attention to this, and I'm here to represent Holyoke taxpayers, and we're definitely in favor of this going through. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so not seeing any other questions at this time, I will read this letter in absence of the attendee. As I indicated earlier, this was received very late in the afternoon, and our administrative assistant forwarded the email, but the attachment wasn't there. So for members of the committee, we're all just receiving this at this meeting. So for those of you who are hearing it first time, this is actually my first full read of it myself. So this was sent today to me and the committee members, and it reads, I am not able to attend this evening's meeting. In lieu of attending, I am sending this correspondence to voice my concerns regarding the request for a special permit which has been submitted by Gary Rome Hyundai, applicant for a non-accessory sign to be located on Lower Westfield Road. As landlord and owner of several businesses located at 229 to 241 Whiting Farms Road, that have just made a substantial investment in Holyoke, I am both surprised and dismayed that this signage is being considered, as the potential impact of the proposed sign is enormous. The proposed sign would decrease the visibility of the new businesses which face Lower Westfield Road. This would have a negative financial impact on these same businesses due to the loss of visibility. Additional to the financial impact is the aesthetic impact to one of the main entrances to Holyoke. The city and state have fostered green space, even allowing the islands at the end of I-91 ramps to have landscaping hosted by area businesses, which softens, and have required developers to provide architectural details and landscaping to blend with the area and provide a positive feeling. If the proposed billboard is approved, I believe that it will not be aesthetically pleasing and it will detract from the image. I believe the city is trying to present to the residents and visitors. I am also at a loss as to why this request is even being made by Gary Rome Hyundai when my company, 66 Holyoke LLC, redeveloped Ingleside Square. It was required to make road improvements which cost approximately $500,000. At the same time that these improvements were being negotiated with the city, the applicant was seeking approval of their new dealership to be located on Whiting Farms Road. During the meetings Gary Rome Hyundai had with the planning department, the applicant stated that they would not contribute to road improvements as they would have minimal new trips generated by their customers through the Whiting Farms Road, Lower Westfield Road intersection. Based on applicant's position that there would be minimum impact to the intersection and the fact that the city accepted Rome's assertions and didn't require the dealership to contribute to the intersection improvement, I would expect the city to maintain the same position regarding this request for an off-site billboard. If the intersection wasn't important enough to help pay for improvements, then Gary Rome Hyundai should not be in need of a billboard adjacent to the intersection. In closing, I would like to thank the committee for their careful consideration of the issues outlined above. Respectfully, Karat Patel, owner. So this is read into the record. His position and his perspective is noted. Is there any other discussion? Councilor Leahy.
Do we have any, thank you, and congratulations on your reappointment to this chair. Do we have any pictures of what this would look like?
We do.
If I...
Oh, there's an extra copy behind you. And maybe Councilor McGivern, do you have one?
I don't.
I can give you mine.
I can share with Councilor Leahy. Yeah.
So how exactly, so in these pictures that I have, I don't see exactly what the sign would look like, but to the right, like on this first diagram, so how would that compare, if I could, through the chair, and ask the applicant, how would this compare to the size of the McDonald's sign?
Smaller, it'd be less height, I believe. A lot less height. This would be about
a lot less height.
You just got to speak of the mic. That's okay.
be a lot less height.
The height would be less than half. And just in response to, well, I won't even.
No, let's keep on this track.
Okay.
So it's going to be less than half, and also how about the dimensions? So, like the McDonald's sign seems to be like, I don't know, 3 feet by 5 feet, or?
This is, what's the size, 8 by 4 by 8?
3.8 by.
4 feet by 8 feet.
It seems to be bigger than McDonald's sign.
I'm not sure the size of their sign. There's more than one sign on theirs, but the point is, in his letter, he said that it would block. It's actually turned sideways. The sign is actually sideways. So the only thing that it's about a foot, maybe a foot wide. So the sign's not turned like this in front of blocking anything over there. It's actually turned.
Okay, it's more of an angle. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Bartley.
Gary, did you want to respond to anything in that letter?
I don't think so. I think everybody's entitled to their opinion. You know, we've all made significant investments in the city. So.
Sure. All right. Madam Chair, if I may.
Councilor Bartley.
All right. So I want to support this, and yet we have the law department coming up here now telling us that somehow the ordinance that was before us for month after month after month is now in conflict with another law. So I'm perplexed how that happened. I'm perplexed as to why no feedback was given prior to January 9th, 2018, after we passed it into law. Just completely dumbfounded by that. So I don't think that should penalize the applicant in that regard, but if, I could see this being tabled for 2 weeks to so I'd be, either way, Madam Chair, I'd be.
Well, I guess.
That's just my opinion on that right now. I don't think the applicant should be penalized by this, but we've got to get our act together sooner rather than later. I
agree.
This crew's been up there now for 6 years. Let's sort of make it happen.
So I will share with you my perspective on this matter. We are entertaining this special permit under the non-accessory sign ordinance with the definitions that we developed in that ordinance that had review at least 5 times by the planning board and the planning staff, and also by this committee. We were not advised of any conflict in this ordinance and the other ordinance throughout 7 public hearings. So from my perspective, I think if we clarify that if the committee is so inclined to recommend to the council approval of this sign under special permit, that we specify that it is under the definitions of this approved non-accessory sign ordinance, and that if there are any conflicts found, that we would have them have this as the ruling ordinance for the permit. Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, just one thing I can add. I don't like the potential, the way Toby referenced it, that the final stop on this train is back at the building department. I don't like that.
Okay, well,
I don't like it, and I wish the law department would advise us on how this should be the final stop right here at this long, arduous journey that he's taken, 14, 15 hearings, how many? But Gary's been down here many more times than that on other issues. There's got to. There's got to be a better way than getting a permit here and then waiting till next week when we vote, and then going up to the building commissioner, who can say possibly no. And then that's it. There's got to be a better way, Madam Chair. So.
And I agree, which was my reason for, in the context of this public hearing, asking our city attorney if she had a concrete issue that we could be made aware of. And I'm not hearing one. I'm hearing there is some concern, but I'm not hearing that there is a defined problem, what that problem is, what definition is being referred to. I'm hearing just sort of a vague discussion. So my feeling is we have a clear ordinance that we are reviewing the request for a special permit under, absent an official contradiction being presented in the public hearing. I'm not finding that there is one, because we have nothing before us. So I would proceed and ask that if any contradictions arise in definitions that we need to clean up in the ordinance, that they be presented back to us by staff through legal, and we will amend them like we recently needed to do with a different one. But that's my perspective on it. Councilor Lisi?
Thanks. So any amendments that we make to the ordinance require a full public hearing with public notification of 2 weeks in advance of that meeting. And so just to jog everybody's memory, what happened was Mr. Rome actually went to 13 hearings between the Ordinance Committee and the Planning Board, because we have not been meeting as a joint committee. And what happened there was this body decided to take the draft form that was presented to us by Mr. Rome's legal counsel, and we worked off of that template. The Planning Board, which has the technical staff, they created a much more comprehensive sign ordinance that amended and rectified all of the definitions that were coming up in conflict and mitigated those conflicts and took a little bit longer than we did to to make a recommendation for a sign ordinance. But this body, this committee, had already passed the sign ordinance that we drafted here without any technical recommendation from the planning department. So that's why we have this law that's passed into ordinance form that conflicts with the existing sign ordinance. And to give advice from this room to our staff in City Hall to say, you need to interpret the law this way on this issue is, the legal, term I think is arbitrary and capricious. Like, we have conflicting ordinances and we're going to say, for these applicants, you're going to follow these rules. For these applicants, you're going to follow other rules. I don't think we could sit here and dictate to our staff in City Hall how they're going to apply the law when there are conflicts about how that law should be interpreted and applied. And I feel very sorry now for Mr. Rome, because I think this is now meeting number 16 that you've been down in front of this body and other bodies to move forward on something that's fairly simple and straightforward. But in haste, I think we don't have the capacity.
So in follow-up to that, I would say that we had adequate time and opportunity for any conflicts in the ordinance that we passed to be addressed. We had public hearings. We invited planning staff who, as Councilor Lisi has noted, were very well informed on the matter that was before us and could have at any time in that process chimed in on some conflict. Right now, all I'm hearing is there is a conflict. There has been nothing presented to us that says what aspect of this ordinance that we are considering the special permit under conflicts with any other ordinance that would cause us not to approve it. So not having anything presented by staff, legal, or anybody else that says there's anything out of order with us approving a sign under this ordinance, I would find us to be in order if the committee so wishes to move on this matter. But I will defer to the committee if you wish to wait. We did due process. This was a unanimous vote of the city council. I think the due diligence was done. And as we passed one other ordinance and then later there was a technical matter found, we later went back and corrected the matter, but we did not penalize any bona fide applicant. So I will defer to the wish of the committee, but
I guess
Mr.
my question is,
Attorney
that
Wilson?
I understand what everyone's saying and everything, and we did have 16 meetings, and we met with the planning board who did not want to take up this issue. That's why I started the whole thing. Nobody wanted to deal with it. Everyone was busy. Everyone was doing this. Fine. Dealt with it. Talked to planning a little bit. Started really making headway in August. And then another member of the city, Marcos, came forward with this whole other creating an entity to control these signs. So then we had 4 more meetings based on that. I mean, I feel like Rodney King. Why can't we all get along? Just as a business person, just as someone who represents businesses, that's my question, is planning should be meeting here. I'm sorry, I'm just in the mood to talk and state my opinion, which most of you know I'm not very shy about. And that's an issue that I think you guys have to deal with sooner rather than later. My client, we want to get this sign done, but I also, and I've said this to Gary too, I also don't want to get to the point where we're about to put up the sign and the building commissioner says no, and then we're fighting and we have to go to court or whatever we have to do. Because that'll take months at a time.
I don't think that's going to be an issue, Toby.
You don't? Okay.
No, I think that, if excuse me, I'm sorry. If there was an issue, then I'm sure that whatever issue would have been brought before you. And if there's just hearsay or we hear some discussion or scuttlebutt about it, then that's not our issue, because I spent the money, more money, again, for another public hearing, $400 or $500 to put the notice in the paper for 20 days, so whoever needed to hear about it or talk about it would be here. And here we are tonight. So I don't think there's any other discussion that we need to have about this.
Counselor Bartley?
Can we just hear from the law department as to whether we can we move forward with this, Crystal, tonight? Well, because they've applied under the non-accessory sign ordinance. We have nothing else before us with a specific conflict. So can we move forward tonight?
So I think the issue you're going to run into is the building department has already said that they can't issue a building permit based on what's before them.
Who have they
So
said
whether-
that to? And is that in writing somewhere?
I have an email that's gone out and basically stated that this ordinance needs to be fixed.
So I'm hearing on the one hand an argument that we can't tell staff what to do, but staff is interpreting an ordinance that we passed to say what we can't do?
Nope, I mean, you're welcome to move forward, but at the end, he has to be able to approve or deny a building permit, and based on what's in front of him, he can't do that.
Right, and we,
So, Madam Chair, I just
For instance, I'm looking at the sign ordinance, and it talks about displays of light and electric signs, et cetera, and he's telling us that he's going to have an electric sign. We have to make sure that it meets all sorts of criteria. That's not noted anywhere in the non-accessory sign ordinance. So for him to look piecemeal into two different ordinances doesn't make any sense.
So if we hypothetically tabled this for 2 weeks, would you and the building commissioner be prepared to come back to, and I know we can't amend it, I heard that, I heard that.
Right, we
But I want to
process.
hear, I want to hear what the solution would be before we move forward, because I think it doesn't make sense to pass this tonight and then forward it to city council, and yet we have a building commissioner that's going to say to us, well, we can't, we're not going to give them the permit. So what would you recommend?
I think 2 weeks to discuss with the building commissioner. I think the planning department needs to advise of what the conflict is that they're finding. As Councilor Lisi stated, the planning board did come forward and try and make it cohesive, and the ordinance committee chose to not that they chose not to follow that recommendation, but I think it was too extensive of a change at the time, and so they chose to pass this language instead. And it's not my job to tell you all how to vote, so that's how the vote went through. So
Right.
There's nothing illegal about the ordinance, so I have no standing to tell you yes or no on whether or not to pass that.
No, I'm just looking for practical, and then your characterization is probably fair, but in your mind, but the planning board's recommendation was just totally off the wall. So, I mean, I just dismissed it. But that doesn't shock me coming from them. Thank you.
thank you, Crystal. I would just note that the planning board recommendation that was submitted to the committee was a broad, overarching, all-encompassing revision of the entire sign ordinance. The order that was before us was a narrow order that the public hearing was considering, and that was the basis on which the committee proceeded with the original order that was the purpose of the public hearing. It was noted at that time, and at that time, if there had been any conflicts in definition, and I'm not really seeing a conflict, what I'm hearing you say is that there's an absence of specificity, because the accessory ordinance states that a digital sign is permitted under this ordinance. It doesn't get into the specificity of every single thing that the digital sign would have to meet. But I don't see that there would be a conflict between that and another part of the ordinance. It simply says it's allowed. So I don't understand what the conflict could be.
Because now you have two separate sign ordinances. One is saying digital signs are allowed, but give no qualifications as to what the digital sign can do. And then you have another that is saying, really, they aren't quite allowed because there's so many specifications that you're looking at a digital sign for, say, a menu board that is small and digital versus a digital sign that is now standing 30 feet in the air that is clearly going to not meet this, but then your ordinance is saying, but it's allowed.
Right. And I would note that we have a scrolling digital sign on a church on Maple Street, so. Councilor Roman.
Yes, so thank you. So under the ordinance, the sign ordinance, section 643, special regulations, under electronic signs, it says no sign or advertising device shall in any district incorporate or be lighted by lighted by flashing, scrolling, or blinking lights, or be designated to attract attention by change or intensity or direction, or by repeated mechanical or electronic motion. Is that correct? That's the provision you're looking at?
Down at special regulations.
That's what I'm looking at. Special regulations, item number 6, electronic signs, correct? .643, number 6, electronic signs. No sign or advertising device shall in any district incorporate or be lighted by flashing, scrolling, or blinking lights, or be designed to attract attention, change in intensity or direction by repeated mechanical or electronic motion. Fixed banners or electronic signs using changeable lights to convey time and temperature, though, will be exempt from this provision. And that's why I asked you, Gary, if you were going to be displaying temperature and time.
Yes.
And you said you were, correct?
And we're very familiar with those regulations.
So this just goes to the core for me of why I'm saying we shouldn't hold you up. If you just let me.
Thank you.
Again, as a man who does his homework, and I just found out I was on this committee Sunday, read this provision on Monday, and I'm here on Tuesday. For me, this says it. It clarifies it, so I don't understand, because
Number 1, projection.
projection signs shall not be beyond property lines. Signs shall not be project over sidewalks, areas without receiving a permit from the Board of Public Works. Signs permitted by the Board or Public Works must conform to special requirements of the ordinance. No projecting signs or business industrial districts shall project more than 6 feet from the main wall of the building. Wall signs may not project more than 12 inches from the surface wall from which they are attached or corner lot. No sign or portion thereof shall interfere with vehicular or pedestrian traffic and visibility. Correct?
I don't know if that goes to, I don't know how much his sign lights up, if that's.
It's not a wall sign.
So if it's a digital sign, it's going around the glaring, but can you answer that question for us? Because like I said, I just read the ordinance. I didn't see anything to hold it back.
Sure.
Based off those
Just
two
ask
provisions.
that portion of the question again.
Is your sign going to be so glaring that I could see it from the Holyoke Mall or my house on Ingleside Street?
No.
Okay.
No.
All set.
Yes, thank you.
Counselor McGivern?
Good tidings, the planning commission is meeting this evening to discuss the dilemma of why they're not meeting with us, which would be nice to see them back with us. But as I said at the first public hearing, for the language of what Gary Rome has been looking for, where's planning staff? There's no excuse for planning staff not to be here. There's no excuse for the building commissioner not to be here if there's a conflict. This is not about a digital sign. What is this special permit called? Nothing to do with a digital sign. The type of sign that the proposer wants to put up he has to get a building permit with the building department. That's different language than what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a location away from his property. He needs permission to put the sign up. The type of sign is not the narrow part of what this special permit is about. We can't overrule other language within the sign language. We can only say, yes, Mr. Rome, you have a good proposal. We think you can put a sign up there. Now go see the building department and work out what kind of sign you can put up. It's as simple as that. And it's ridiculous that staff does not come to our meetings. And I've said this 6 times last year. It's only beginning for me to start yelling this year if we don't start seeing staff here. It could have been 7, David. It could have been 7. Well, 6 with Gary being here. 1 with the drive-through ordinance. When I went to a hearing at 5:30 over there and a hearing at 6:30 over here and heard the same thing from the same proposers. This is not about digital signs.
So, is there anybody else who wishes to be heard in the hearing portion of this?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No.
Second.
On the motion to approve the special permit, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Noted, 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Our recommendation will be sent to the city council at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Motion to take up item number 2 and open the public hearing?
2 and 3 can be together.
Item to take up item number 2 and 3 as a package and open the public hearing?
If I can bear the indulgence of the committee, there are just 2 brief matters that I've had the request to address that were on our agenda the last time that Councilor Leahy had on the agenda.
Number 4 and number 7?
Yes. If you would indulge us just briefly, just to go out of order, and we'll be right back to.
Motion to suspend the rules, take up item number, one of them as a package or separate?
Sure.
Take up items number 4 and 7 as a package?
All in favor?
Very much.
Aye.
Good evening. Thank you.
Good night. Okay, so at our last meeting, I was unaware of a correspondence because we'd been tied up in a special meeting right before this. So I had received feedback from Mr. McManus on item 4, which I will read, filed by Councilor Leahy, that the city or the contractor who is doing construction or road enhancements be ordered to put caution signs and slow signs when traffic is diverted from a busy through street to a quiet residential street. Relative to that order, Mr. McManus wrote to us that DPW will modify the trench permit to indicate these types of signs are required. We will also require contractors working on behalf of DPW to utilize these signs. So based on that and based on that, that's his intention. I think we don't need to go into a formal ordinance unless your intention as the maker was different.
No, in fact, this, if I could.
Councilor Leahy, sure.
Very briefly. A lot of work has been done on the Bemis section of Holyoke, and they closed down different parts of the hill throughout the winter and throughout the other seasons as well. And doing so, they've rerouted the traffic in other different places, and cars have been traveling at excess speed because, wherever they have to go for work or whatnot, now they're running late because now they're going, and so they're speeding through the neighborhoods. And so multiple people have contacted me asking for slow signs. And so I thought it was just interesting. So one day I got contacted by one attorney, a good friend of mine that lives up there, and she was 100% correct. There's absolutely no signage. So there was a sign that says detour, but there's no sign that says slow or whatnot, a residential neighborhood. And so I got on the phone and contacted the gas and electric, and at that time they said they didn't have any signs to be made. They were not going to do that at that time because they needed to see some sort of something in writing from the city council.
So
that's what led me to file this order.
Yeah, and so this is the fix from.
Yes, they need to see
Mr.
something in
McManus.
writing, then they'll do it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Then, Councilor Rowe, are you all set?
I just wanted to add something if I could.
Oh, sure.
I wanted to thank
Councilor Rowe.
Councilor Leahy for this order because I used to live on Commercial Street, and as a resident, they always shut down Sargent Street for some pipe or something that
Right.
burst under the bridge. So I really applaud you, and I wanted to thank you as a colleague and as a resident. And I know a lot of my residents, when they saw this, were really excited because the same thing happens. They shut down that whole section of Sargent going down from Commercial and High Street down to Main Street, and people were zipping through, kids in the
Fast as they
neighborhood.
can,
So
yeah.
I think this is a great order.
Thank you.
And it would also apply to the contractors. So I would entertain a motion.
7 as well.
Oh, right. Item 7, that DPW gives Roberts Field a street number. There's too much confusion when people put the address into a GPS. Mike McManus stated that DPW is working on this issue with Eileen Pooler. So it's a coordination matter, and hopefully we will get the next step at the next time Mike comes in.
Okay.
Motion to table?
On that, can I ask a question?
Sure.
First of all, Eileen Pooler, isn't she in charge of the website?
No, that's, is that her name?
Why would he be dealing with our website design person?
I think she also has a role within the mayor's office.
Oh.
So she does the website, but she also has some role in the mayor's
Okay,
I think
I
she's
was,
administrative, but I don't know the exact nature of her role.
nor do I. However, I think this is a very, not so much through the winter because there's not many people on the field except for, football's done now. However, if I could just give the indulgence, we have a very busy season in Roberts Field. It's actually the Gilligan Field, but it's in the Roberts complex. And we had an issue where a girl playing field hockey got injured, severely injured, and it took Action Ambulance a long time to get there.
Because
And
of that confusion?
it's confusion. And I put in my own GPS, and it doesn't bring you to the field. And unfortunately, these people aren't from the area, so they didn't go straight up to the field. They went down to Fitzpatrick Rink. They went up to the front of the building as well. And so if you go to Roberts Field, for those who on the committee that don't know where it is pretty much across the street from Pine Street. So I would suggest adding the number to a Pine Street. I don't know the numbers, but instead of having Resnick Boulevard or Beach Street, I would probably utilize Pine Street because it's right there.
I think we will have Mike in on this once he gets through his coordination aspect. in
Sure. No, I
terms
know I
of-
talked to you earlier about this, but it was going along with Joe's point, and it's not only this committee, it's my committee and it's other committees as well. Now, was Mike notified by Ryan to come in for this meeting?
I believe he was, but I'm not sure because we had it posted for a while, and then because things were up in the air with committees and the like,
Yeah.
we did get these tabled items up, and he had previously responded to these, which is why I put them on.
Right, okay.
I didn't necessarily expect he would be here
Okay.
tonight because he had responded in writing. It was a
Okay.
short timeline.
All right, so, I would go along with Counselor Lisi's recommendation to table this
Yeah.
one. It is a very important one. We don't want to see any child getting
Absolutely.
injured.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So we have a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your indulgence in letting us go out of order.
Table number 4 as well, or do we want
Oh, I'd entertain a motion on 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me. All right,
Motion
so,
to suspend the rules, take amendment 2 and 3 as a package, and open the public hearing.
all in favor?
Aye.
So item 2 is a public hearing tonight, January 9th at 6:30, to hear a special permit application for the Parlor Faded Company LLC for a 4.7.2 non-conforming use at 230 Sargent Street, map 089, block 00, parcel 017322. Item 3 is a public hearing tonight, Tuesday, January 9th, 6:30 PM at Holyoke City Hall, to hear a special permit application for Forward Change Experience DBA Hobby Quest for a 4.7.2 non-conforming use at 226 Sargent Street, map 089, block 00, parcel 017. So I'd like to invite the applicants up to tell us about your proposal. I do want to make you aware that I have had a resident raise a question about whether this,
Pass out stuff to us, remember?
oh, sure. Oh, that's fine. That's fine, thank you. We can share. So a question has been raised about whether this particular property will be eligible for consideration under this request. So that's just a question out there that I did send over to legal, but I think in order for us to understand what you're looking for will help that question to be answered.
Hi, I'm Antonia Santiago. Good evening. Happy New Year. So I will start with Hobby Quest. So Hobby Quest is a STEM enrichment program. So we provide STEM enrichment through 3 curriculums: aviation, magic, and fashion. And with that, we offer after-school programming, camps, birthday parties, and workshops. At this location, what we're going to use is for basically our corporate office because we're growing. We are actually in Holyoke right now, Holyoke Public Schools. We're in Springfield, and we're having some other programming in West Springfield as well. So this location would be more so of our offices. Questions on that, or should I proceed?
You can proceed.
Sure. Okay, so with the Parlor Faded Company, that is a vintage, it's going to mirror vintage style barbershop. So we're going to have a lot of different services that a 1950s barbershop would offer, and it's appointment based. So we're not going to have a lot of different clients. At the same time, we're gonna have four stations. So we typically we would have 4 customers at the same time. Maybe a 10-minute leeway when a customer is coming in and another customer is leaving. So there wouldn't be too much of kind of the traditional barbershops that you would see where there's 15 different people waiting in line for hours trying to get a haircut. So we're very customer focused is what our plan is. Anything you want to?
Because we're doing the appointments also to consider the parking lot. We only have a certain amount of parking, so we don't want a bunch of cars there at a time. So as a customer gets a haircut and leaves, the next client could come in and use the parking spot. So it's no.
And so what is the parking situation that you're having us consider in each of these cases?
On-street parking. So because
On-street?
it's on-street parking, and because it is a residential area, we want to be mindful of the residents in the area as well. And we know that there was a barbershop down the street, and that was one of the concerns of some residents. And we want to make sure that residents do know that it's appointment-based, so you're not going to have tons of cars. So as one customer is coming, another customer is coming, another customer is leaving.
And the zoning for this property at this time is? You can come to the mic and, sure.
My name is James Ryan. I'm one of the.
You came down on a zone change question or some question.
Led down a couple different paths. After talking to a number of people in City Hall. That our property that we have is a non-conforming pre-existing. Apartments above, and talk that first floor spaces have been
Right. Right, and that is the question that was raised to me when these came through.
right. So when we were here the last time around with the convenience store,
Right.
asked the law department to issue some type of paraphrasing a little bit, although not used for an extended period. Resident two-family apartments on the second and third. Non-conforming pre-existing use. What was indicated to me the last time was that wasn't going to happen anyway. It seemed pretty clear to me safe to go down this non-conforming use applicant if he then work along the department to do whatever he or she needed to do.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I don't have any documentation in front of me relative to that. So, Crystal, do you have any? He came in for a zone change, wasn't it last year? Or maybe it was a year and a half ago. I think so.
I can look, and I have some old email there. I can get pretty close to the.
Okay, because whatever documentation you have would be helpful, because I do remember it was a complex situation, because if you got changed to one zone, then you couldn't have your other
Right, so I think,
activity, yeah.
I think the question was, well, these businesses were offline, so.
Right.
So did the building law department forming was, it's a residence two-family, 4 units residentially. fell back into the bucket of non-conforming.
Okay, Councilor Lisi?
Sure. I do remember this applicant coming before us for the zone change, and I think that to utilize the commercial spaces on the first floor, the recommendation was that you just needed a special permit for non-conforming use. I don't know how we make the, I guess, assessment that this particular business or another particular business fits the neighborhood, because it is, so we're not working with zoning anymore, we're working with a special permit for non-conforming use. But I think that there are going to be some parking concerns, and I'm, in the absence of, technical support from the planning board, I'm just not clear about how we go about approving this. I mean, both these businesses sound like, great fits for the neighborhood. But I do have concerns about parking, and then there's also, like dumpsters and things like that that need to be attended to.
The building does have but if they did, we would just, right now it's picked up. We're not there a lot. The parking, there's parking on the side street on Magnolia. Across the street is right across the street is probably someone's side yard. So there's, and part of Magnolia. I joke a lot. My office is in West Springfield. I was here last with the convenience. I get
To the zone change.
well,
Right.
They were opposed to the convenience store. Really weren't. They were.
Both were probably true.
They were not opposed by bringing that building. No neighbors here tonight. I mean, this is. They were here 8 months ago saying whatever else was happening there was a bad idea. Here in the hall, after the meeting here before you, many of them thanked me for the amount of money. They said, hey, listen, it's not about you. We just don't want this. We're not going to generate a lot of parking. Office use. This is the neighborhood. Right now, across the way, we're just trying to get back online. Bought it, it was an eyesore. The reason I bought it was because proposal that makes sense. So try to up reasons why not, but
Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, thank you. So, since we had two separate businesses here, Why don't we just stick with the easier one looks like Hobby Quest. Hobby Quest looks like no. Are there going to be visitors? What are the hours going to be?
We're not going to start with visitors. It's myself, and I have 2 part-time employees. We're going to hold trainings for our instructors. We're also going to hold our storage as well during that time.
Okay, so what are your hours going to be?
Be like a 9 to 5.
Monday through Friday?
Yep.
I'm asking this because this is going to go, if we pass, it's going to go into your permit. Okay, so that's why I'm asking these questions.
Sure. I mean, we're hopeful to expand in the future if we wanted to do, workshops or birthday parties during that time as well.
And here's the thing: if you wanna, you can, if we grant you a special permit, they're going to have conditions on it.
Okay.
If you want to come back to amend that, you'll come back to City Council and we'll entertain your proposed amendment.
Okay.
Okay, so that's, sorry, that's the process.
No,
what
it's
can I
okay.
tell you? That's not.
As long as I'm not putting up a sign, I think I'll be okay.
None of us here invented it. Oh, no, yeah, we love signs. Yeah, don't we? We all love signs, especially building commissioners who are so hands-on with the signs. That's what I love.
Okay.
Okay, so we're just on Hobby Quest at this point. So you said 1 full-time and 2 part-time employees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's 3 cars right there. So I was just thinking about that. And then
Also, because I remember speaking with James, a lot of the residents upstairs are not there during that time, so we would be able to park in the back if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, is there going to be any, Mr. Ryan, thank you for coming back. Is there going to be any designated parking places for the off-street for the businesses? Let's go to the microphone.
Designated parking spaces at this point. That's something you think. We do have another location in West, much larger complex. Apartments, barber shop, ironically, celery stock, which is a very well. Ample parking behind the building. Our tenants leave during the day. Never had any assigned parking. Not that we couldn't, but it was kind of, that's how.
So Mr. Ryan, how many off-street parking spaces are present on that premises?
There are at least 7, and I could.
Okay, 7 to 8. All right, and then how many?
There's 4 apartments.
4
upstairs.
apartments. 4 apartments. Okay. All right. So the hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then for the Parlor Faded Company LLC, what are the hours for that?
The hours will be 9 to 5 as well. There's going to be a late date, which is on Wednesday, and that's going to be 10 to 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay. So Monday through Friday.
Tuesday to Saturdays, I'm sorry.
Tuesday to Saturday. Right, because Mondays you're always closed, right. Tuesday to Saturday, you're going to be open. Most days are going to be 9 to 5, but what day is Wednesday? Thank you. And Wednesday, you said 10 to 8?
7.
Wow. Okay, sorry. Wednesday, 10 to 7. Okay. And that, you said, is by appointment only?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so you're thinking, you'll be there. Are you two coming to work together? Oh, okay. I don't like to just. I don't like getting
one car.
I don't want to get your business. I assume that.
You can take an Uber. I'll do that too.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. I don't mean to pry. Okay, so at this point, it looks like there's 3 cars. I don't know, but 1 car there full time, 2 part time. Okay. All right. So if when we get to that point, I'll just make a motion to include those. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson Burgos?
Yes, so
I think this is a great idea. I absolutely love the idea, but I'm also about building relationships. And my concern is the local residents. Have we spoken to them? We need to have them involved. Whether they're here or not right now, that's my concern. Is because if there's an issue, then you guys will be back here again. And that'll go on for God knows how long. So I think what we need to do is speak to the local residents and see how they feel about this.
I wouldn't know really how to organize the local residents. I know last time when we did have a hearing.
It's a zone change.
Oh, okay, so it's different?
Yeah, see, it's my ward, and already I've had a few people reach out to me. So I've met with these two, and they're great people, and this is a great idea, and I would love to see this happen. But what I would not love to see is creating an issue with the residents and the relationship with the business and what they're trying to do in their vision.
I'm not here to property, me as the owner. I don't, they know that some of the immediate neighbors would certainly maybe some other people. We don't.
It's also from my walking that area quite a few times. It's also, it seems to be a very dangerous sharp corner. Some cars do fly through there, and my fear when I saw this, the hobby quest was children. So I'm assuming children won't be part of the visitation. It's just the office space. Okay, good. Because that immediately made me stop and think, wait a minute. It's just, it is a dangerous corner. I've been by there lots of times.
Right next door to our building, on the building, when we run the daycare. And there's so I get it. I get that turn.
Yeah.
It's a little bit blind coming down, but
Again, my concern is safety and building relationships, and I'm pretty sure we can work something out. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. I don't want to, commit to something and then have it blow up in our faces.
I have no problem. I would love, as a social worker background, I would love to be in the community and have the residents come because I definitely want them to be on our side. But just so the clarification, how would that look like if they did come in and meet us and hear a little bit about our businesses? But what would you need from us in order to get approval from them other than coming here in opposition?
If I may?
Yeah, of course.
I think procedurally that they be made aware that if they wish to come, when we continue this tonight, which we will need to do because we have at least 2 open questions, we'll be continuing it to a date and time certain. Okay. So when you have the meeting, you could let folks know this is when we'll be continuing. And if you wish to come down to speak in favor or against, because, hopefully they all come down and they think it's great. And hopefully our other question is answered in the affirmative also. That I think would be the fairest thing to do.
Okay.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. The last thing I just want to point out, since we were talking about the Parlor Faded Co., the intent is to have 4 chairs, so I'm assuming that means 4 employees, right?
Yeah.
With the intention to grow to 6 employees. So I think that's going to start to eat up the off-street parking. So, this could all be mitigated through like the conditions that we put on it. It's just, again, without the technical support, I feel like we're shooting a little bit in the dark. And so I'm going to be supporting the move to table so that we could get some more clarity about what what types of requirements and therefore conditions we should be looking for.
Council Roman?
Yeah, so just like my colleagues, because I want to explain to you, so basically the biggest question for me before voting on it is that non-conforming use question, so that's all I'm waiting for. I like the business concept, I agree with my colleague, Councilor Bartley, it's just knowing the parking. I looked on the maps, I saw the sharp turns as well. And I think from just to give you some feedback on, what I've seen in my ward as a newer councilor, anytime a business has come up to me with a proposal, it's a lot of times you guys are just great, go door to door immediately around the building and just talk to some of the neighbors. I remember when some of the residents had issues with waste management company that was going to do some stuff. He just went door to door, took their names, got a little paper that he spoke to them, name, address, phone number, any concerns they had. Just that way you guys could be proactive and not necessarily, and you could still meet with the ward councilor, but just to give you an idea of something you could do, to just go out and introduce yourself to the neighbors and get some of that feedback directly. But where I agree with my colleagues, for me, it's just that non-conforming use question. So I agree with my colleagues, we need to table it or continue it for today, but that's really just my only question, to ensure that we're voting on something that we can vote on. So that's it.
Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with that too, and I'll table it, although I'm ready to vote on the hobby quest tonight. I'm ready to go forward with that. That's an office. That seems pretty straightforward. I think when we talk about a barbershop though, and you've got several chairs there, and are there other employees? I wasn't clear on that. So at the barbershop, who's there besides you?
It would be 4 other chairs, so including him. Will be 3 other chairs, so a total of 4 chairs. So total of 4 employees, including him.
Right.
He would be included.
Right. Okay. So and then customers. Right. So you can see where this is going. So that gets a little bit. I mean, I'm so glad that that's a really prominent building and a prominent thoroughfare, and I'm so glad there's new investment on that, and I want to support it. But take a look, if you will, at Paper City Cuts at the corner of Harrison and South Street next time you not on a Monday obviously, but that gets.
They're also not appointment based, so that's what would make us definitely different.
Well, that's great in theory. That's great, and then when appointments start overlapping and when weather starts coming in, but you go to that location, it gets a little crazy on Harrison, and then the overflowing traffic on South Street. It gets. Well, we deal with it, and we've moved on, and so they're in business, and that's the way it is. But you're kind of breaking new ground here, so I'd like to have you get off to a really solid start and keep the momentum as solid as possible going forward, because I want you to be in business and I want you to be here, and I want Mr. Ryan to keep investing in Holyoke and all that. So, but we've got to get on firm ground. So I'd feel better, getting some additional feedback. Thank you.
So, motion to table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Oh, I'm sorry, to continue.
Need a date certain, got to continue it.
Hang on a second also. Before we move to continue, I just want to make sure that we have what we're looking for at the next hearing so that we can be sure to get all the answers. So the first question is a legal one to Crystal, that the non-conforming use special permit is a viable option for that property in that zone. So that's number one. Number two is just for you folks to come back with more specifics on the parking, because it looks like we're looking at 7 to 8 employees and vehicles. Plus customers. So, and that there be an awareness of the neighbors that what this project entails, and that they would have opportunity to participate in the public hearing, albeit not in as formal manner as a zone change notice would be. And then there was some earlier mention made of technical reviews being desired by planning staff. Was there any specificity, Councilor Lisi, in your mind when you made that comment that you would ask them to give us feedback on relative to either of these or both?
Yeah, like in terms of the types, so if we have a commercial use in this location, what are the types of requirements that we're looking for in order to make a determination that it would be a good fit? And so, I know the criteria that we use for For other projects, it's the, is the dumpster, the size of the dumpster, the lighting, the hours of operation seem to be absolutely reasonable. Parking, and I think parking is going to be the big issue.
So parking, dumpster adequacy, and lighting. I just want to be specific so that hopefully we've got all the questions out there and we don't have to keep developing more questions and continuing it. Counselor Bartley.
And then how much time would you, based upon these thoughts, and if you, I know you're not taking notes right now, but if you can call our administrative assistant tomorrow, and he can sort of give you a summation, or he can forward you a copy of this meeting through the email, okay? So you can, you can watch it on your computer and just take notes of the questions that were just raised, okay? So you ask for Mr. Allen when you call City Hall tomorrow, Ryan Allen. And then how much time, you heard the questions are raised. I mean, do you need, we meet every 2 weeks, so do you need 2 weeks to circle back to us? Or do you,
Sure, yeah. 2 weeks.
is that enough time?
Yeah. More than
All right,
enough.
so I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing to 2 weeks from tonight, whatever that date is.
That would be
23rd
January 23rd.
at 6:30.
Is 2 weeks enough for our legal staff to get an answer?
Oh, God, they're like crack staff up there, of course.
So the motion then is to continue the public hearing till January 23rd at 6:30?
And the Ward 6 Councilor will hopefully do a little due diligence and come back, so that'd be great.
And there's a question? Oh, no, we haven't voted yet.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well,
Okay.
well, that's why we got a law department, and they'll get on point on that.
All right. Okay.
I have something quick.
Sure. Counselor Anderson Burgos.
Sorry. So, growing up in Holyoke, I used to walk down that area. It was, I believe it was a pottery class. So maybe if we can do research to find out what kind of issues they had back then, to save some time, if they had any issues when it was a pottery class.
Oh.
Because it was at one point a pottery class.
Alrighty.
I'll look into it if I have to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that may have been considered when we'll look into what was read into the record and see what's in the minutes and on any tapes or in what might be in the legal files. There was transition since that hearing, so, but we can definitely look back relative to that. If there's no further discussion or questions on the motion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. So this hearing is continued to January 23rd at 6:30 here. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to take up number 5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So item 5 was filed by Counselor McGee. Order that the Ordinance Committee invite in DPW to address and potentially correct the monthly parking pass issues in the parking decks in relation to the visitors' parking needs for the Volleyball Hall of Fame, Children's Museum, etc. And we had lengthy discussion about this under the order relative to parking commission. But the response that Mr. McManus had provided to us was that, and this was dated on December 12th, was that the pay stations at both parking garages are currently being fixed. The vendor was working on them last week and needed additional parts, which will be installed in the near future. A final date has not been confirmed, and I've not had an update since this. Counselor McGivern.
Well, they may have been working on them December 12th, but on January 9th of this year, they're still not working. We are getting no revenue for on the 2 parking decks
It's a joke,
for
Joe.
daily parking.
The joke.
We are getting revenue for monthly parking on the correct part of the half of Suffolk Street and on the White Street. But as you know, Councilor Bartley and I know, there's serious problems with I think both the vendor and the management of parking in the city. We still have over 50 parking meters that are not working. Mike did tell me that there's a pilot program, experimental program going, which sounds interesting, but I don't know details about it, so I'd let him come in and probably talk about it. But what I'd like to propose is, and I think last time when Mike was here, is we talked about, one, replacing the vendor, replacing the management contract that will be down the road in the future, and 2, how to take advantage of what I see as, potential revenue that is going to a vendor rather than doing it more in-house and getting more profit to the city treasury itself. And I think it's kind of at a standstill, but it's a shame because we're going in the wrong direction.
I know, and it's been months.
And, yeah, this order was more about, anticipating, how to do things better, and everything's getting worse.
Right. So it seems that we really need to stay on this and keep it going on our agenda and really invite Mike back in at our next meeting.
I think it's a good,
really keep this
yeah,
going.
it's a good plan. And we can get some numbers from perhaps from the auditor, although they're kind of busy doing other things these days.
Right this minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
you. I just wanted to get his feedback at least into the record because of the logistics last time.
Madam Chair, do we want to table, 5, 6, and 8? I can give feedback on any of these, but, because we don't have our superintendent here today.
Well, we have feedback on 6 and 8.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Yes.
Well, then I'll just make the motion to table number 5 then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to take number 6 off the table.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 6, filed by Councilor Bartley, that the city install a crosswalk from Blessed Sacrament Church to the Messier parking lot across Northampton Street near Carlton Street. This is a constituent request. The response was that he would actually prefer to come in person, which we will invite him to do at the next meeting, because of the mid-block crosswalk. And I think we've had this. In addition to the pavement markings, there needs to be a consideration for street lighting, handicap access, and possibly a signalized walkway due to the traffic volumes. So,
Councilor McGivern and I, we had a wonderful colloquy relative to the mid-block crosswalk at South Street. He finally came around to my point of view, and it's actually a very attractive and I think effective crosswalk. Again, I have no dog in this fight. This is a constituent request, so we'll just hear what he has to say.
But to your earlier point, it will be tabled.
Mid-block,
but I didn't want you to think he was non-responsive.
Crosswalks are they're not easy, but I do have confirmation from the pastor there that they would be warm to it, and they would. If there's a little sign that has to be put out, the $100 sign, the $100 fine sign, as they do on a daily basis, the maintenance director at Metcalf School does on Northampton Street. He goes out there every Monday through Friday, puts a sign in the middle of the crosswalk, and then takes it back in, and when he goes home at 3 o'clock. And I think that has a positive effect. I think that's one of the few signs that I see in town that are in place. So you've got to have somebody take ownership of it.
You have to, yes.
And so the pastor has agreed to take ownership of it for the Saturday and the Sundays.
Right.
That's it.
Right, because otherwise it will be run over in the middle of the road.
Oh, roger that. Motion to table.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take number 8 off the table.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 8, filed by Councilor Lisi, that the DPW superintendent assess the placement of a signalized crosswalk near the Homestead Avenue entrance to Holyoke Community College. So he wrote back that there's an ongoing conversation with Councilor Bartley, the school, Joe O'Connor and DPW regarding the traffic signal at the entrance of HCC. And he's noting that a signalized crosswalk will be a part of this conversation because that's never been an actually implemented light. It's always been on flashing, I think, since it was installed. Council Bartley.
Well, I mean, if Councilor Lisi wants to speak first, I'll go on cue, but if you want me.
No, I know that you've been in touch trying to get HCC to pony up some funds to help us along, and I'd love to hear how that's going.
So, not well. So, what a shock. Now, obviously, we respect everybody at HCC, okay? But, you know, I've dealt with bureaucrats, and then I've seen the bureaucrats up there, and they can't be touched. They're great. And however, we do have on the Ward 3 side of the street of Homestead Avenue, there is a constituent there that is also involved with the. Now, let me step back. The vice president with whom we met at HCC, he said, look straight at us. I have not heard in my X years here one complaint about that crosswalk.
Why
Not
would
one.
they complain to them?
Not one. Never heard a single thing about it. That's completely inaccurate because I've complained about it to them numerous times. So there's at least one person. But there's also a woman across the street who's in the student senate, and she's the one that first raised the issue to I think Rebecca and Rebecca and me, and so she is going to get on point on that, and so to try to spur a little more interest from the administration at HCC. It's not an easy issue, but I think the time has come to have a more working traffic signal at that intersection. There's for a lot of reasons that they're too boring to name right now. There's a lot of pedestrians that use that. Daily walkers cross that street all the time. We all know about the high rate of speed motorists travel, and that street's no exception. But the only problem with that street, that has a lot of 18-wheel trucks as well. So, so there's that part. So we're hopeful that maybe in the coming year or two we can get some. I think it'd be a unique deal. That's why Rebecca and I were talking about that. We were if HCC was involved with the Commonwealth, maybe not so likely, but with the city. The hope was that the city would pay for a plan and the city would pay for maintenance, and then the college, specifically the foundation, would step up to the plate with a little bit of income to sort of work with the city to. And this is a traffic light that's not one of those 300,000 deals. Joe O'Connor's indicated you're looking at about 80,000 to get that up and running. So. So
80,000 for the crosswalk, the signalized crosswalk, or for an actual light there?
And the light, yeah, the whole enchilada, yeah. Now the study was somewhere south of 10,000, but that's from Mike McManus, and I don't want to misquote him, but 10 to 15,000 for the engineering study. So you need an engineering study, and that's where the vice president of HCC left it. Get me an engineering study, and then we can have a more intelligent conversation. And that's a reasonable point.
So do we need to file something to?
I don't think so. I think Mr. McManus, when he comes back in 2 weeks, which usually comes in the last Tuesday of the month, when he comes back in, he'll give us some feedback as to where the potential for an engineering study lies in the budget, in the world of the budget, because we really don't know.
So you want to table it to the 23rd?
Yep.
Well, Mike comes back, so whenever that is.
Well, hopefully he'll be in on the 23rd, because
right.
he hasn't been here now for a while.
He's been busy, I know that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
So.
and yeah, not saying that as a
Oh, I know you-
criticism, just as a
I know, but-
logistical
Yeah, he's putting a lot of hours.
situation. Yeah.
So I'll motion table.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so our last order?
We have two.
Oh, two, yes, there is an item 10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Filed by Councilor Jourdain that the police department enforce all traffic and pedestrian laws relative to anyone soliciting in the street or on any traffic island in the city. We had the chief or his representative in, and we had quite a big discussion on it, but we did table it at the end for some further feedback, I believe, from legal. I can't remember the specifics of that, but in my notes, and Ryan did send us the minutes. We can't take them up because it's not on the agenda, but we'll take them up next time. But for those of us who were on the committee, he did send us those minutes. We did table it at that last meeting. I'm not sure, Crystal, if you have anything.
Well, Crystal's looking. I just have one question. Who's this, Councilor Jordan?
Well, hey, Joe, you know what, if I may, Madam Chair, as my dad said, when you're out, you're out. You know, and this is my father saying it, so what do you want me to tell you?
Tough crowd.
So there's been some confusion about some of these orders filed regarding solicitation and or panhandling. There's one order that came before council. I believe it touched into Ordinance Committee, but I don't believe it's actually ever been voted on by the full council again. There's an order that, in conjunction with Chief of Police and myself, and just various conversations with people in the city departments, there's an order that basically states that they can stand there, but we're going to ticket the cars that choose to do transactions with people on a traveled roadway. It allows them to maintain their right to freedom of speech. It also, you'd have to get creative as far as, I know there's some issues regarding some charities that, you know, fill the boot from the fire department. They'd have to kind of get creative as far as making it no longer a traveled way if they want to be on the street, to not allow any of the cars to get ticketed. There would be some movement from the police department as far as alerting people that this is, you know, becoming something that they are going to ticket for, whether that be warnings or, you know, smaller fines to start with. We had even come up with a fine that they felt was a good monetary amount. I believe it was $75 without looking specifically. And it would just give us a little bit more wiggle room without stepping on any toes and getting into any legal trouble by doing it this way. And it wouldn't just be handing money to a panhandler. It would be any transactions out of a window on a traveled way. So if your buddy, you know, runs by and you want to throw a backpack at him because, you know, he forgot something, you have to pull over and do it safely. It becomes a safety concern when you're slamming on your brakes at a green light because now you want to stop quick to talk to somebody or to do any transactions. Exactly. So that's really the only order that we've been able to come up with that avoids any legal issues, any First Amendment right issues, and it's the others I think have been floating around, but really I have no way of allowing them based on information we've received in regards to First Amendment rights and impinging on anybody's rights to be out in those medians. We haven't found any laws that prohibits them from standing there, assuming they're not standing in the middle of the road. So that's where this all stands.
Right. Thank you. And while you were giving us that summary, I was looking through the folder for the second order because I researched our agenda and I found the actual order and when it was referred to this committee. I'm not seeing the physical order in the jacket, but I'm sure we will locate it. And I think some of the confusion was that when we were discussing this item 9 that we have before us now, I think Kevin was looking for the language relative to that other order to come back under this order. I think that may have been the confusion. But I have to find where that order is because I thought we had taken it up when we were going to get legal language on it.
I believe the legal language was presented and then it just disappeared.
All
and
right,
all these other orders started floating around. So I can certainly email you.
If you could, I may have lost track of it somewhere, but I'm not seeing the hard copy here.
Okay.
I looked quickly. Sometimes I miss things. I have to find them on the third run through. But I would appreciate if you would forward that back because just somehow I think between the myriad of orders, it did get somewhat confused. So I appreciate that, and if it's done, we don't need to recreate things. Okay? Thank you. So I don't know what you want to do with this. Maybe we could call this complied with and find the other one, because Crystal, your legal language was based on the other order, right?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion to take number 10 off the table?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 10, filed by Councilor McGivern, ordered that the city council look into creating a parking authority, which we had begun discussion of last time. I was kind of under the gun with timing on the agenda, so I asked Ryan to put on the items that we had tabled last time.
Oh, that's fine. We're waiting partly to hear back from Mike McManus.
Right.
It kind of goes hand in hand with the whole parking
Right.
issue as it is. And I think, you know, a new contract was signed, so we got some time to toy with it. And there is always a, if I'm saying it right, Crystal, a get out clause in the contract. Well, maybe I'm saying it wrong, but I'm led to believe that there's a way to get out of the contract. But this is something that would take planning, and if we all agree to it, and if the numbers make sense. But the numbers that as I stated earlier, the numbers that we're looking at now are pitiful. So we have to do something. And I think Mike's seeing it. I'm not sure if he's in favor of taking complete responsibility, but you know, my thoughts are keeping it under the DPW, but creating an authority within the DPW that oversees it, and including the collection of monies, the responsibility for the monies, and the responsibilities for the ticketing and so forth.
Mr. Roman?
Yes, I just want to say I agree with Councilor McGivern, and I thank him for finding this order. And it's not just necessarily the collection of the fees from downtown, but I know in my ward, specifically the car that's been parked there for 20 years and no one's going around ticketing that car. Oh, yeah.
Facebook is the answer.
Oh, yeah. But I think with a parking authority, with having a parking, individual who works for a department that's able to go around to these other neighborhoods and answer these parking concerns, the police department can't enforce. But if there's someone there to ticket these cars, specifically now with these snowstorms, it's been horrendous. So I really applaud Councilor McGivern on this. And I think, again, with planning, I know I'm on board. I think we need a parking authority here as a way to collect revenue. So I agree. Thank you.
All set? So we'll have to keep this one on the table.
Motion to table.
All in favor? Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Just a quick point of order about personal privilege. Just welcome to Juan and Nelson to the committee. So I just want to welcome them. So it's very exciting. And then we also had a little bit of sad news with, we're not going to have a moment of silence, but we lost Franny Rogers. So I just want that recognized in the minutes that we recognize his loss at this meeting, because it's the first time city council's met in any kind of form since he died. And he served, 5 terms here plus 3 terms in the State House. So I just want to recognize that. And I'm sure we'll have a moment of silence for him at next city council meeting.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley.
Yep.
Councilor Roman?
And just to add to that, also our colleague, Councilor LeBron Martinez's mother passed away. So just want to throw that out there as well. Oh, really?
Yeah, so we give our condolences to the mayor on his loss as well.
When?
So we give the condolences to Gladys and to the mayor. So motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes, and I just want to note that I have offered, since we didn't have time to do any orientation to the new committee members, if you would like to sit down and go over any of the procedural things with me, and I'm sure Crystal also, because I do rely on her for some technical matters from time to time, I would be happy to do that if it would be helpful.
Sure.
All right?
Maybe before the next meeting, we can meet 5 minutes before.
Yep.
Sounds good.
If that works for you, can you come down a little earlier?
Yeah, the only reason.
No, you were fine, but I don't know if that will work, we can do that.
Yeah, of course.
Say 6 o'clock?
Yeah, 6 o'clock sounds great.
Okay,
So I'll be here at 6.
yeah, I mean, I think, like you say, you pretty much
Thank you, I tried.
Been an honor.
are grounded, but, so thank you very
On the
much.
motion to adjourn?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.